Alright, what is up everybody and welcome back. So today we have the two Baz Rays that we dropped off at the tire shop at the end of the last video. They're done and back. So before we get into testing them on the car and making sure the new tire sizes didn't really mess up the fitment at all, I want to show a side-by-side comparison. These are the two rears behind me. So I want to get a close-up, show you what I was talking about on going up a tire size and some of the problems I was having with the Achilles because of the stretch, and get into that. So let's just get right into this. Get through this, then we can get them back on the car and then hopefully get this thing on the ground within the next couple of days. Alright, so to quickly run through what we're talking about on all these wheels. So right here we have a 275/35 Achilles ATR Sport 1 on an 18/13 rear wheel. This is the same 18/13 rear wheel, but this is a 285/35 Hankook V12. Then over here, we have the old 265/35 18 Achilles ATR Sport on the 18/12.5 front wheel. Here we have the same 18/12.5 front wheel with a 275/35 18 Hankook V12. So why we did this, switching to Hankooks and going up a size. So this is my old rear wheel. It's a 19/14 with a 305/30 Hankook V12 on it. So this right here was from my last setup on this car with the digital camo and the black stripes in the back, when this car had 19.5 degrees of camber. So if you flip this over, you can see that this wheel and tire actually has about 1,500, 2,000, maybe 2,500 miles on it. And you can see that this was just rubbing, touching the ground from here to the sidewall. This was at 19.5 degrees of camber. It is a ton of camber. And these things were literally running on a 2, maybe 2.5 inch contact patch on the ground. So for a tire like this to hold up to, even if it only is 1,500 miles, 2,000 miles, that is incredible tire life. These Hankooks have been doing me extremely well. I've been running these on the rears for about 4 years. And in that 4 years, I've put on quite a few couple thousand miles on it. I used to daily drive this car at 11 degrees of camber with this exact tire and wheel combo on it. And these things lasted me forever. So with that being said, I figured we might as well switch the new Baz Rays to Hankooks if we're going up a size, because Achilles only makes a 275/35 18. They don't make a 285/35, which is why I put the 275 on there in the first place. So that's enough with this Hankook, but this right here is what kind of inspired the whole, let me try and put that down. Yep. The whole idea of revamping these. So as you can see, this is the tire that came off of this rear wheel originally. If you can see where the stretch is, this is actually only 1,100 miles, and you can see that it is showing cords at 14 degrees of camber. That is not enough camber to be burning through a set of tires like that. So you can see the reason why this is actually so stretched that it's going down and flaring out. And where that's rubbing, where that is worn out on this tire, is actually right on this roundover. But you can see that this isn't touching sidewall at all. It's actually still on the tread from here to almost the center. It touches right about here. Then you get into no man's land, and then this is pretty new still. So we have a good 6-7 inches of tire patch on the ground. So for this to be burning through that quickly should not be happening. But to solve that, we went up to the 285. So we have a little less stretch front and rear compared to these. As you can see, there's just a little bit of barrel showing right there and right there. But the stretch is a nice, smooth transition. It's not a whoop like this is. It's like a BMX ramp over here. It goes like that, where this is just a nice slant down. So the problem what we're gonna have now that I'm worried about is this stretch, this little bit of barrel showing is allowing the fender flare to slide in here and sit fender to lip. This doesn't have as much clearance, so I'm hoping that this isn't enough of a difference over this, that this is going to still allow the fender flare to slide in without having to adjust the suspension. So this is basically the same stretch as these had, and those had no problem fitting fender to lip in there. So that should be okay, but we might also have to, unfortunately, do some minor adjustments. Now, to get on to the fronts, this was the 265/35 Achilles compared to the 275/35 Hankooks. So as you can see, just a tad bit of barrel showing right there, pretty much nothing here. Once again, pretty much nothing here, and just a little less stretch in the front. But Hankooks seem to run a little bit narrower and also a little bit shorter than compared to a set of Achilles. So the other problem I was running into is I have the car sitting perfectly on the ground when it's aired out. So I didn't want to go up a tire size in here and have a slightly taller tire, and now the car's sitting a little bit more raked. So that's why we upgraded from the, well, not upgrade, but upsize from the 265 to the 275. So this is going up by the same height as the fronts are going up now. So it should keep the car a little bit level. I should have a little bit like 1/8 of an inch gap to the ground, but that's not going to be noticeable. So luckily though, what I found out after is if you take this level, you can see, now this isn't like the most perfect way of doing this, but it is a pretty good idea. You can tell that these are actually pretty much the same height, even though this is now a size bigger with the same aspect ratio, because the aspect ratio is a percentage of the width, and that gives you the sidewall height. Well, that's not today's video, so these aren't going to change the car and raise it up anymore. So that's, I literally got exactly what I wanted. Now if you come over here, you can see that the fronts are pretty much the same as well. You're probably not going to be able to see that, but you're just going to have to trust me. So, and if that's not a good enough way of doing it, you can pick up something like this, which is just a cheap drywall square that has an adjustable middle on it, and you can come over here, and this is going to be super difficult to do one-handed. You can see that if we put that up against the lip and then go all the way down, we are basically at a 25 5/8 tall tire, versus if we come over here to the old one, and I'm not very good at this one-handed stuff yet, and if you come over here, we are at a 25.5 tall tire. So we have an 1/8 of an inch difference between those two tires in overall height, which means a 1/16 of an inch on up and down, because half the wheel is going to be tucked up to the fender flare, so that's not going to make a difference on this. So it's just 1/16 of an inch off the ground, which is unnoticeable. So that's perfect. Now if we come over to the front and do the same thing, slide down, you can see we have a 25 1/8 inch tall tire. And then that's for the old. And we come over here to the new, and then slide that down, you can see we have a 25, and I'm going to upsize that to a, that's probably like a 3/16. Now, we'll call it 3/8, 25 3/8 tall tire. So we are only going up a tiny bit. So yeah, that is what we done. So we accomplished not only going up a tire size and removing a little of the stretch, switching tire brands, but we switched to a tire brand that runs wider and shorter than this kind of tire brand does, Achilles over here. So not only did we go up a tire size, we didn't actually raise the tire overall's diameter by much. So we got exactly what we wanted over here. These should mount up to the car and not have to have the suspension adjusted to fit these. Worst case scenario, it should just be a small, very minor adjustment, which is not a big deal. But like I said, I just want to run through this. I know that was very long-winded, and I just did this in one take, so there's probably some sort of me rambling and stuff like I'm doing right now. But I just want to go through that. That kind of gives people a little bit of a glimpse. I kind of overanalyze this tire thing a little bit too much, but it helps overall because you develop a problem, something like this, or I should say this, you have an easy solution by knowing the difference of how tire brands run compared to another brand. And yeah, so enough talking. I'm gonna get these off this table because it's kind of sketchy, and get these back mounted on the car. As you can tell in the last clip, we have the new wheels on the passenger side right here on with the new tires. So as you can see, good luck for us. Everything aired out perfectly. It is still absolutely dead perfect fender to lip. Can't be any happier with that. Now, what I was talking about with the clearance is, see how this is really close to the fenders here and here, because it's a little less of a stretch. That's where that clearance is. It still had enough for it to tuck in here, so that's good. The rears, absolutely perfect, like always. Well, not like always, like it was previously, but like I said, once again, really close on the clearance here and here, but it wasn't enough of a difference to start flexing and bending and putting pressure on these flares. So come over here, and we have the old tire sizes, so just a little bit more stretch. And as you can see, it has a little bit more clearance here and here. Same thing with the fronts, but the fitment itself is still the same, so that's great news. I might adjust the fronts a little bit and pull the wheel a little bit forward, because this has a little bit more gap than here, but I don't know if I want to get into that right now. This is pretty much perfect. This is enough for me to now take these sides off, bring these two wheels to the tire shop with the Hankooks right here, so we can get these hopefully dismounted tonight. I can do the TPMSs tonight and then drop them off first thing tomorrow and have them remounted and have the car on the ground by tomorrow afternoon or 2 days from today. But yeah, I'm excited. Actually kind of just super relieved. It's been like 3 months of me not seeing this car aired out, so I am ecstatic. If anybody's wondering, these are just some riser blocks I made last summer when I was doing the suspension and stuff, so that way it's elevated off the ground, so if I had to adjust the suspension, I can just slide out under there and take care of anything. But luckily for me, nothing needs to be adjusted. So like I said, old, new, and I'm gonna measure it from the flares to the ground, front and rear, is compared to that side, just to see if we raise it up at all. But as of right now, I don't think it is. It looks pretty similar based on the measurements from the wheels when we did that over there in one of the last clips. They should be pretty much the same. So yeah, super happy about that. I'm gonna end it here, finish up taking these off, drop them off to the shop, do what I just said, and hopefully this thing's on the ground in the next video. Thanks for joining. Peace.